Hi, I'm Phyllis from southernfrugal.com. I wanted to make another video today, and I wanted to do this in answer to a comment. Now, I'm not an expert on giving advice for sure, but I have lived for a while and I've had some experiences in life, and I wanted to share one and tell you how we handled a bad situation. Now, I want to read you the comment. I'm sure that the lady won't mind because obviously the comments are public. This is under the video that I did this morning on the Good News, We've Got Honeybees, It's a Miracle. That was the video I did this morning. And I wanted to read her comment, and I'm going to answer that. All right, her name is Leah Streamer. That's the name she's using on YouTube. And she says, I have a question in hopes you can answer. I see you have dogs and some patches in the grass. Our neighbor is allowing his dog to use our grass, and it has now caused many brown patches. Our homeowners association says there's nothing they can do. Would you ever dream of allowing your dogs on neighbor's lawn? And I can answer that, no. And when I catch him, should I say something? We don't understand why they are purposefully doing this when their grass patch is next to their property and extremely damaged by brown spots. And now they have moved to our beautiful grass. Today I put sacks of soil over the spots in hopes he gets the message. I even thought of garden tools to lay on the lawn to stop this. What is your opinion from one Southern lady to another? In my day, a person doesn't dream of trampsing on someone's lawn. Help. Okay, I'm going to help. You might not like what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to tell you the story of what happened with us when we had a similar situation. Only it wasn't one dog, it was 3 dogs, and they were big dogs. So in answer to the spots on our lawn, those are not spots from where the dogs have used the bathroom. Those are places where there used to be trees, and we keep trying to fill it in, getting the grass to grow. In fact, one on the side out here, probably the one that she saw, is where we had a Bradford pear several years ago, and we just can't seem to get grass to grow there. But anyway, there were a lot of trees in the yard. Anyway, our dogs are little, and they mostly use the bathroom up against the shrubs on the backyard or on the side yard. Not usually on the grass, although I'm sure they do sometimes, but it doesn't really seem to affect our grass because they're little dogs. But anyway, so here's what happened with us. This was, at least I would say 15 years ago, and Mr. Bucky was working in McCormick during the week. 5 days a week he was gone, and he was home on the weekends. Now, he worked at this job as headmaster of a private school for 14 years, yeah. And so anyway, we have not a huge yard, but it takes a while to mow the yard. So what I was trying to do to also get exercise was mow the lawn before he got home, so he wouldn't have to spend like all day Saturday mowing the lawn. And I could always tell he was tired, and he needed to rest, not be out mowing the lawn. And I thought it was a good way for me to get exercise, so I started mowing the lawn. And every time before I would mow the lawn, I would have to pick up the dog poop from where my neighbor's dog, she had 3 of them, would come over and poop in our little side yard that's not fenced in. It's just a small little strip there, but it's not fenced in, but we do have to mow it. It's our property. So I would have to stop and pick up all the dog poop. So finally one day I was out there mowing, and I actually got a bucket from the garage, and the bucket was half full of dog poop. So the other thing that happened, I had gotten a couple of mosquito bites on my ankles, and they got infected, and I had never had that happen. So I ended up having to go to the doctor and get antibiotics. And so we finally figured out, even though I had picked up the dog poop, it was where I was running over it with that mulching type lawnmower, and it got infected. So I had to take antibiotics. So we really, and of course, Mr. Bucky had been picking up all their dog poop for a while. And so we were trying to figure out what to do. And so finally we thought, well, wait, we'll just go and ask her to, try to keep the dogs from pooping in our yard, because they didn't have a fence. And to our great surprise, her answer to that was, well, you'll just need to fence your whole yard in. What? So that kind of made me mad, made Mr. Bucky mad, and we thought, wait a minute, this is our yard. We own this. We pay taxes on it. Your dog, we didn't say this to her, but we were thinking, wait a minute, we have 2 dogs also, and we have to pick up the poop. And how is it that your dogs get to come in our yard and poop? And so anyway, this went back and forth. Not, we didn't get in a fuss or anything with our neighbors, but we decided, well, wait a minute, is there a leash law here? And we live in a little small town, but there is a leash law. So I just made it my business to go down to our town hall and look it up, and then ask the secretary there if she would run me a copy of the law. It was pretty plain. We have a leash law. You can't just let your dogs run wild. Even if they're only going in the next door neighbor's yard, you're not allowed to do that. So it was on a Sunday morning, and Mr. Bucket was very tired. We didn't go to church that Sunday, and I was in the kitchen fixing us some breakfast, and I happened to look out, and all 3 dogs that she owned were pooping in our side yard all at the same time. I couldn't believe it. So it just made me furious. So I went out, and her husband was kind of leaning up against the car, I guess waiting for her to come out to go to church. And so I just went over to him and I said, look, we've got a problem with all this dog poop, because they're all 3 were big dogs. You need to, not let your dogs come and do all their pooping in our yard. And instead of answering me, he just kind of stared at me. And so I thought, well, he'll get them away from the yard now. But he didn't. And I thought, okay, we're going to do something about this, because they have no respect for us or our property. So anyway, again, we live in a small town, people talk, and a couple of the neighbors had told me that she had come by and was talking about me and saying how I said I'd gotten an infection on my ankles, and she didn't believe that was true. And it was just like, okay, enough's enough. It really is. Enough's enough. And so I just simply, they came over the yard again, and I just called the police. And of course, we live in a small little town. I don't think at that time we had but 2 policemen. And sure enough, they came out, and the policeman said, well, what is the problem? And I said, well, my neighbor's dogs keep coming and pooping in the yard, and I've got an infection on my ankles from where I ran the lawnmower over where they pooped and that kind of thing, and I need them to stop coming into my yard. And he said, well, ma'am, I don't think we can do anything about that. And he said, I don't think we have a law. And I said, oh, I think we do. I said, well, could you just hold on a minute? So I came in the house, got the copy of the ordinance, took it out to the car. He took it and read it, radioed his chief, and they said, okay, well, we need to do something about this. It is the law. They didn't even know, y'all. It's a small town, okay? So anyway, are y'all following along now? So then they actually sent them a notice, and the policeman came up and tacked it on their door. Yeah, about what the ordinance was, what my complaint was. So after that, the next thing that happened was she got a fence, and which she really should have had a fence the whole time, but their house, their yard's pretty small, but still they had 3 dogs. Okay, the 3 dogs were their responsibility, not ours. So anyway, so she gets a fence, and that was the end of that. So Our lawn grew up, no more big brown spots there, no more dog poop to pick up. But then we didn't really have much of a relationship with them before this happened. I mean, we weren't like best friends. And then, they didn't speak to us. But what had we lost? We had a neighbor who had no respect for us or our property. None. So anyway, the next thing that happened, it was about a week later, I went outside to go somewhere and my car had been egged, y'all. I promise you, someone had thrown, looked like a whole dozen eggs, all different places on my car. And of course, everybody knows the car that I drive. So anyway, I had to stop and wash my car. And I actually thought it was funny that a grown woman would actually egg somebody's car. It really was. But here's my point. If someone doesn't respect your property, what do you owe them, really? I mean, they're not your friend. So are you worried about hurting their feelings? You need to not be. And this is just something you learn as you get older. You don't want to cause some trouble with a neighbor, but if that neighbor is doing something to do with your property and causing you some kind of problem or harm, in my case, and then goes around talking about you to all the other neighbors, it's time to do something. If there is a leash law in the town you're in or wherever, and most places there is, you need to just get it enforced and call, first of all, find out if there is an ordinance. Now, this particular lady, she said that they have a homeowners association. Now, I'm not sure. She said she's a southern lady, so I'm assuming she's somewhere in the south. Almost every county, every city has a leash law now, and they do because, we've had dog attacks and all kinds of things in this country where people actually got killed. So if you have an animal, a dog, it's up to you to restrain them or have them confined in an area, or if you're walking them on a leash. So, I wouldn't feel bad about checking things out. And the thing that we went through is because they're our close neighbor, we didn't want any bad relationship with our neighbor, but guess what? They didn't give a rip about us or our property. So then why were we going to be concerned about what we said? So anyway, as it turned out, I had, when I was looking for the ordinance to see if we had one, and then I asked them what I could do about it, would it be enforced? They told me it would. And so then I said, well, what should I do? And they said, well, why don't you go next door and talk to the judge? I was like, okay, well, what is he going to tell me? They said, well, he's going to tell you what you can do. And so I went next door, and sure enough, the judge was in, and he wasn't busy, so he invited me in. And I told him what the situation was, and we'll call the person that had the dogs Mrs. X, okay? So I was telling him what the problem was, and I still had the sores on my ankles. And he said, well, I'll tell you what. He said, you could file a lawsuit in small claims court, and I will be the judge. And I was like, okay. I was very interested then. He said, yes, you can sue for up to $5,000. And he said, and I would just be willing to bet you've probably got that much damage. And I said, do you really think so? And he said, yes, I do. And he said, and oh, by the way, I'm real familiar with Mrs. X's dogs. They visit my yard all the time. And I said, well, where do you live? He said, I live about 2 blocks from you. So, as it turned out, nobody wants other people's dogs pooping in their yard. It's that simple. So if someone doesn't know, give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they don't realize that their dogs don't do their business in their own yard. Maybe they don't really realize. But when you tell them, and you get no reaction from them, or they think it's okay, then you need to do something. Do whatever the law allows you to do. So anyway, needless to say, I certainly wasn't going to sue my neighbor, although if push had come to shove, I might have, okay? But anyway, as it turned out, she ended up getting her whole yard fenced in, and that worked for a while. And then she started letting the dogs out again, even though she had her whole yard fenced in. And one day I was out there working in the flowers in the backyard, and I heard her calling her dog, and she kept calling and calling. And then I, of course, went back to work, and the next thing I heard her crying coming down the street. And as she got into my vision, I saw her. Her dog had been hit and killed by a car. So there's a reason to keep your dogs restrained, because even in a small area, like in a little subdivision, your dog can still get hit and killed by a car. So people that don't keep their dogs restrained run a risk of them getting in the road and getting hit by a car and killed anyway. So anyway, it boils down to, does your neighbor respect you? Do they respect your property? You know, what's the deal there? You need to do, the laws are made for a reason, to protect people, and to protect them from things like dogs ruining their lawn. I mean, this lady they probably fertilize their lawn or whatever and keep it looking real good, probably water it. And especially if it's a big dog, they can leave a humongous place in the yard. Now, with all this said, there are also laws that prevent people from using those really long leashes. Have y'all seen that? They'll be walking down the sidewalk, they've got the dog on the leash, the retractable leash, and they let the dog out, and the dog can come all the way over to your shrubbery. It can. And so there are laws against that now too. So it's a matter of respecting your neighbor. I mean, that's all it really boils down to. So if they don't have any more respect for you and your property, then you need to do what you need to do. But the very first step is asking them to please prevent their dogs from messing up your lawn. Simple, isn't it? It's really simple. So these things you learn as you get older, y'all. You learn these things that we spend a lot of time worrying about, well, oh, if I said something about that, what would they think, or that kind of thing. Sometimes it doesn't matter what they think. Sometimes what matters is, are they going to adhere to what the laws of that area are? Now, this lady said she went to the homeowners association, and of course my first advice would be to go to the county that you live in and find out if there are leash laws, and don't just take one person's word for it, because most always there are leash laws. Your animals can't come on somebody else's property and damage the property. If you own the animal, then it's your responsibility to keep them pinned up, restrained in some way, so that they don't just roam all over doing whatever. So anyway, that struck a chord with me, and the main reason it did is because my car got egged, okay? That's the main reason. So this all happened many years ago, but it was a good lesson for both me and Mr. Bucky. We don't let our dogs roam the neighborhood. Now, I'm not talking about if a dog gets loose. I mean, we've had our neighbor across the street's dog got loose one time, and you know, we actually caught the dog for him and held him, because he didn't want his dog to get hit in the road, and we certainly didn't want to, and he came up to us, so Mr. Bucky kind of, you know, held on to his collar until the neighbor could come and get the dog. So, you know, dogs can get out, but every day for a dog to be coming and using the bathroom in your yard, that's a completely different story. It's not like the dog got out. Now, I hope this answers the question. Do something. Instead of it, you know, raising your blood pressure and you're getting mad about it, and you spend hour after hour trying to figure out what to do, because that's what we did. I mean, this just went on and on and on. and I don't mean like for a year or two, but you know, for a good week or two. And once I found out why I was getting that infection on those little bites on my ankles, and it took us a while to figure that out. I mean, it was beginning to get worrisome. So then I thought, okay, you know, we need to do something. And, you know, she actually called Mr. Bucky in McCormick at his job and said something like, well, I don't understand why we've got a problem. We've been neighbors for all this time and there's never been a problem. Well, yeah, there was a problem the whole time. We just didn't ever say anything, but it was a problem the whole time. But she literally could not understand why it wasn't okay for her dogs to come and poop in my yard. She couldn't understand that. So too bad. Then, you know, we have to go through the law to get it straight. All right, y'all, I'm a nice person, but I don't like stuff like that. And when someone is doing something to you and the law is on your side, it's okay then. Now, I know this lady, she's in the South, is probably not wanting to do what we did, but we were just kind of at the end of our rope. And, you know, other people are not allowed to damage your property, nor are their animals allowed to damage your property. It's just that simple. You own the property, you're paying taxes on it, you're watering the lawn, you're fertilizing it, you're mowing it, and it looks good, and that was your effort into your own lawn. Why should someone else's animals be able to come over and tear up your lawn and cause it to die in big spots? And I've seen those spots too, by the way. When they're really big dogs, I mean, the spot can be huge because their urine is so acidic it can actually kill the grass. And it's actually, you have trouble getting grass to grow there again. But anyway, that's my take on all of that. And all of y'all that thought I was a Miss Nice person all the time, I'm not, okay? And I'm not saying that we didn't do this in a nice way. We weren't ugly. We didn't get in a fuss with our neighbor or anything. We just did what the law allowed us to do, and that was to protect our own property. It's that simple. All right, so I hope that answers your question, and I hope you get your problem resolved, Leah. I just had to do a video on this because with what happened to us, you know, I hope it doesn't happen with you that way where you just keep on and on worrying about it, trying to figure out what to do. Just go ahead and do something. And maybe the neighbor will recognize there's a problem and solve the problem. I don't know. Maybe they could get a fence or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's all I got to say about it. I hope this helps. And anyway, I don't know that y'all are watching me to get advice from me, but I thought I had some good advice on this one. Your property is your property. You know, it's really that simple. All right, we'll see y'all next time. Bye.